Jim Jordan sends another letter expanding his probe into the Alvin Bragg Trump prosecution witch hunt. We've already talked about one subpoena that went out to prosecutor Mark Pomerantz, formerly with the DA's office. And the way this format started was Jim Jordan sent a request. Hey, we'd like to talk to you. Why don't you come in here and answer questions about what you did here to interfere with the upcoming election by singling out and being partisan hacks prosecuting a former president, current candidate? Why don't you give us some answers about it? Well, Mark Pomerantz said, no, sorry, not going to respond. He got a subpoena, courtesy of Congress. And this is the first step as the probe expands. You know this fella here. His name is Matthew Colangelo. Let's learn a little bit more about him and what he does before we see what Jim Jordan sent over to him. This was the article that was published some time ago when they brought him into the office back in December 2022. Remember, Bragg had just gotten in and he's trying to build a team. So they brought in this guy, Matthew Colangelo. He is hired to help lead the Trump inquiry. This is who Jordan is sending letters to. He's ex-Justice Department. Gross. And let's see what he did. Alvin Bragg, a long time ago, hired a former senior justice official with a history of taking on Donald Trump. It's weird. It's like all these people are partisan hacks and his family businesses as the office seeks to ramp up its investigation into the former president. The official, called Matthew Colangelo, who became a top attorney at the DOJ, led the attorney general's civil inquiry into Trump, likely to become one of the leading attorneys into the criminal inquiry as well. The hire marks the latest turn in a long-running investigation that has proceeded in fits and starts in recent years. Bragg took office January. Predecessor Vance had directed prosecutors to start the process, but Bragg grew concerned. Pomerantz and Kerry resigned. So then he started reassembling a new team. Colangelo got his attention, and they brought him on the case. He was the third highest ranking at the DOJ, stepped aside, also worked in the Obama administration, and they're very excited, right? You see this whole article is just a big puff piece about how great he is. And he's honored now to reunite with District Attorney Bragg, and here they are. There's Alvin waddling out of the side of the car, expanding the team, and they're very excited, right? They're going to get him. Trump is coming up soon. So that is what they detailed when they brought on Matthew Colangelo. Now let's take a look at the letter that Jim Jordan sent over. The Committee on the Judiciary, being sent from Jim Jordan's office from Ohio, sends a letter to Matthew Colangelo, senior counsel for the New York District Attorney's Office. Here's what they write. Jim Jordan says, Dear Mr. Colangelo, now the Committee on the Judiciary is conducting oversight of the Manhattan office's unprecedented indictment of Trump. According to news reports, Alvin Bragg hired you in December to, quote, jumpstart his office investigation. And you were brought on apparently due to your, quote, history of taking on Donald Trump. You had previously served senior positions and also at the New York AG's office. And at both offices, you were investigating Trump. Another lifer, another career Trump inquisitioner. It reminds me in a game of football when you're just guarding somebody and they double team that person. You don't ever leave him. I know you don't do anything else in the world except leave this person's side. Do you understand that? Yes. Usually something, an assignment I got. Can you handle this, little Robbie? I think so. Okay, don't leave his side. Okay, one of those things. Same thing happening with Trump. They just assign a bunch of people to him, prosecute him for the rest of your life, make sure that he never gets anywhere, and they just follow him around from agency to agency. 3 agencies now, and he's excited to be reunited back in court. Now, given your history of surrounding and the public reporting surrounding your work pursuing Trump, we request your cooperation and your oversight in your personal capacity. They say that the Supreme Court has recognized, says Jim Jordan, that Congress has broad and indispensable powers, same language from the J6 committee, to do whatever we want. Rule 10 of the Rules of the House Committee says we have oversight over criminal justice matters. Same language. J6 committee use this all the time. Congress has important interests in preventing politically motivated prosecutions of former presidents by elected state and local prosecutors, and especially in places like New York, where the prosecutor is popularly elected and trial judges lack life tenure. So Alvin and Tishy Latish James, all they have to do is just run for office. We're going to prosecute Trump. And all of the New York, weirdos out there, all due respect to our New York viewers, all maybe there's one, I don't know. But they're all so excited about Donald Trump. That's the only thing they care about. Okay, prosecute him. Tishy Tish James, she's having facial contortions when she's campaigning and she gets elected. So that's what they want. Now, that doesn't feel like justice. It feels like you're using the justice arm of the state institutions to go after political opponents on a national scale. Doesn't feel like that's what this is supposed to be about. Among other things, if state or local prosecutors are unable to engage in politically motivated prosecutions, this could have a profound impact on how presidents choose to exercise their powers. A president could avoid taking actions if he knows he's going to be retaliated against with prosecution. And so as a result, your office filing unprecedented prosecutorial conduct causes us to consider legislation. Here are some of the things we're going to talk about. 1, whether your office and your conduct raises the need to insulate former presidents. 2, whether we need to pass new laws to exercise control about the indictment system, saying Congress may need legislative reforms to remedy this conflict. We have federal law and state law, and we have a conflict of interest here when the state law can sort of supersede the federal law. We have the supremacy clause, and then we're dividing by zero when we let this happen. Alvin Bragg has stated that the prosecution of Trump relies on, at least in part, a federal campaign finance violation to upgrade these charges from a misdemeanor into a felony. So in light of this fact, they say we need to bring uniformity to the law and make sure there's no problems with this misconception. And this reform is something we have the power to do. They also tell us that Manhattan has acknowledged it used federal funds, and that gives us jurisdiction as well. And because you are uniquely situated to give us information about this, we need to hear from you. Your recent employment has largely focused on Trump, and you ran investigations at the AG's office, including a wave of litigation against Trump. You then moved over to the AG's office, and you helped AG Bragg, or DA Bragg, beef up his office. Ugh. Alvin Bragg beefed up his office. I'm sure he did. By hiring you to fill the void left by the departed disgruntles Mark Pomerantz and Carrie Dunne. Pomerantz left the office very publicly because its investigation into Trump was not going fast enough. His public resignation reportedly left Bragg deeply hurt. And so he reactivated the zombie case. So they have a bunch of questions for him. They want to know what type of work you do for the office, what the motivation was in hiring you, what your personal motivation was in hiring you. We want to hear about all the conversations you had about your investigations regarding Trump, any documents about President Trump, the Trump Organization, or other entities. We also want to know about your future employment at the DA's office and anything related to Trump. They say, we would love to have your testimony. We ask, okay, this is voluntary. We're not ordering you to appear in front of a transcribed interview. Please let us know no later than April 21st. And as you can imagine, the next letter, when they don't get a response, will be a subpoena. Further, this letter serves as a love these paragraphs. These are some of my favorite paragraphs in any of these writings. This is just a formal request that you should preserve all of your existing and future records and any materials that might be related to topics addressed in this letter. You should construe this as a preservation notice in case you have any questions about what that sentence means. So don't destroy anything because we're going to be looking for it soon. Sincerely, your friend, Jim Jordan, copied to Jerry Nadler, another waddler out of Congress. So that is the letter, Jim Jordan, expanding the probe, taking this on to other people out of the Manhattan DA's office, asking questions about what's going to be happening with Donald Trump. Matthew Colangelo is the next one on the list. We'll see if he responds or if he gets a subpoena. After the fact, Jim Jordan will still stay on it, as will we, my friends, as the Trump prosecution continues.